Alrighty. Kacey Musgraves has released her fourth studio album, Star-Crossed, and it's time to talk about it. Kacey Musgraves is a musician from Golden, Texas, who burst onto the scene in 2013 with her debut album Same Trailer, Different Park, which introduced us to this small-town girl with an angelic voice and a knack for songwriting. But it was her sophomore album where it really all came together for me, Pageant Material, an album that I absolutely adored. It was this collection of fabulously written tracks about how she was raised, her values, morals, all presented to us through this lush, bright, gorgeous, uber neo-traditional country style. It just felt like bedazzled, sparkling cowboy boots. That's the best way I can describe it. From there, however, Kacey transitioned more into the pop country world, as found on her third LP, Golden Hour, which was this spacey, atmospheric country pop record that, in my opinion, stands as one of the best blends of the genres. She brought her A-game lyrically, opening up a little more about her internal struggles while balancing it with more upbeat, feel-good tracks, all while maintaining this juvenile, young energy and peppy sound she was beginning to be known for at this point. But as I said, the main talking point of the record was the production. It stole the show as this cinematic powerhouse of country music with a mystical, sparkling twist added on top. And that brings us to this here album, her fourth full-length studio LP, Star-Crossed. There's quite a bit of hype coming into this record. Specifically myself, I really bought into the whole thing. But there weren't many reasons for me to not. Over the past few years, Kacey had proven herself as a gifted, creative-minded songwriter with this beautiful, angelic voice, and especially after her incredibly successful transition into country pop, I was always going to be intrigued by her follow-up record, but it was the concept behind it that really sold me. This record is supposed to tell the story of her relationship with her ex-husband, telling it from the beginning to the end, as if it were an ancient tragedy or a Shakespeare play. It was supposedly divided into 3 acts that helped tell the story. It was the perfect storm forming over our heads, and I had astronomical hopes for it. My expectations were definitely really high, but my hopes were like way higher. However, unfortunately, I just don't think this record came together nearly as well as it could have. Beginning with the big draw for me, which was the concept. Kacey had just recently gone through a divorce, the emotions were raw, and she chose such an ambitious way to tell that story that in hindsight, if she couldn't execute it properly, the falloff would be noticeable. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happened, because looking at the track list, you can see the progression of the story. The opener and title track, Star-Crossed, sets the scene like a narration to open a play. Good wife finds Kacey in the beginning asking God to help her be a good wife. She's trying to navigate this new role she's assumed and is just desperately doing all she can to be a good wife to her new husband. Cherry Blossom is this peppy pop track where Kacey's talking to her husband, saying, "I'm your cherry blossom, don't let me blow away. Don't ruin this good thing we have." Simple Times feels a little out of place given the 3-act structure, but then we get If This Was a Movie, which is sort of the beginning of the end, the changing of the mood. Here we find Kacey feeling guilty for the relationship that is beginning to fall apart at the core, but she was saying how if this was a movie, he would pull in one night, they'd make up, and everything would fall back into place, but obviously it's not a movie. The middle third of the record is Kacey dealing with the after effects of a divorce, whether that be on Breadwinner, warning future lovers about this guy, very similar idea to Carly Pearce's Next Girl, or tracks like Justified or Easier Said, where Kacey's trying to cope and guide herself through this difficult time. Then the final third is Kacey moving on. She's gone through all the grieving, so the final third is her trying to hype herself up, hit a reset button, and go at the world in the right headspace, whether it be on tracks like Keep Looking Up or What Doesn't Kill Me, which are both very feel-good tracks. But then the closer, Gracias a la Vida, is this weird, unnecessarily repetitive track that just ends up dragging. The whole song is in Spanish, so being a Canadian citizen, I have no clue what's going on. But even then, it just feels like an interlude being looped, but each loop adds one more minuscule effect that I guess is supposed to keep my attention. I don't know, the song ends up just feeling a bit sloppy and incomplete, which unfortunately is a common theme across this record. Because sonically, despite having some flaws, on the whole, I thought this was a bold showing from Kacey. There were some aspects I would change, which I'll get into later, but it was the songwriting that really just let me down and ended up sabotaging the rest of the record. It just felt very surface level, which is unfortunate and unexpected given A, who it's coming from, and B, what the album is about. But the songs just fail to put me in a place. I struggle to paint a mental picture in my head and follow along. The songs themselves are more vague than previous work from Kacey, but I also think just overly juvenile, and I know earlier I mentioned the youthfulness and peppy energy her music always had, but this is a different tone. This record is different. Sonically, it's more intense, and conceptually, it's much more gut-wrenching and impactful than anything she's written about before. Yet the songwriting just ends up feeling childish, like not much thought was put into it, almost like a first draft where you're laying the foundation of the album, but Kacey never went back and filled in the blatant gaps in the foundation. Like the song Good Wife, which features this badass bass line and impeccable smooth R&B country blends, a stellar catchy hook, but the lyrics are just hollow. They're just empty. God help me be a good wife, 'cause he needs me. Even when he's not right, he still needs me. Help me let go of all the things that make me mad. And at the end of the day, he's gonna know that I've got his back. I mean, in all honesty, it sounds like something a 13-year-old would write after getting her first boyfriend, not from a Grammy award-winning artist after her divorce. And especially with the build-up of this record being like an ancient tragedy, the lack of fulfillment is clear, because sonically the record, for the most part, brings the foreign dramatic energy, but that only makes the lyrics stand out like a sore thumb more than they already do. Songs like Simple Times, Easier Said, Keep Looking Up, and several others just lack the elegance and maturity I was expecting on such an important record for Kacey's discography. There's times where I'm listening and I can't help but feel the record is cheesy or corny, but even when she tries to get more philosophical or profound, she fails to use any creative means of expression, like how she uses the idea of a house not feeling like a home at least 3 times within the first leg of the record. It's just boring in that regard. However, as I said, sonically this thing does have a lot of strong moments, like the opener and title track Star-Crossed, which is this chilling, emphatic intro that gives me goosebumps, the medieval build, the haunting undertones, it's glorious. Other highlights, as I mentioned earlier, we have Good Wife, which is this fat groove of a track, a sure standout for me. Angel is this beautiful guitar ballad that feels like a continuation of the vibe the intro gave us with these Spanish guitars, almost giving me Day of the Dead vibes. Breadwinner is a simple but bouncy bubble pop country track that balances its synthetic and acoustic elements contagiously. Camerol is like the sad, low-key vibe of Breadwinner, in the sense that the blending of synthetic and acoustic elements is really just top-notch. Just in general, the genre blending is really well done, similar to Golden Hour, but just in a warmer, more acoustic way. I just think where I struggle is some of the pop elements. Not because they're there, or too much. Some of my favorite moments are arguably the least country songs, but I often find the pop elements are unnecessarily muffled or washed out in the background. It just leads to the instrumental feeling smothered, and it's just in turn not enough to carry the track from start to finish. There's moments all over this record where the poppy synths or percussive elements are crying to breathe but just are never given the opportunity, which I think can often lead to this awkward stalemate where it feels like Kacey's just singing to an instrumental being played in another room. Yeah, overall, this album disappointed me. And I know you guys are going to say, oh, but Overshore, you had such high hopes, this album never could have lived up to those. And while that's a fair criticism of me, even after taking a step back, this album really just didn't provide in a way I want any Kacey album to. And I think it was just a massive missed opportunity with all the conceptual elements and rare circumstances she found herself in. Honestly, at times I was a bit shocked at the quality of the songwriting to the point where it became super distracting because I was just confused how we stooped down to this level. Overall, was it enjoyable? Yeah, for the most part. Are there moments of this album I'm going to frequently revisit? Yes, but was it Kacey's strongest work? Far from. I think her previous works just felt more polished, beefed up, substantive, whereas Star-Crossed just felt a bit hollow. I guess that's the right word. Rating-wise, I'm going to give this one a 5, a very 5-5. Think like a 5.5. Alright, so that's all I've got for you guys today. Be sure to comment what you thought of this album in the comments below. I'd love to get chatting with you guys down there. Links to my Instagram, Discord, and podcast are all in the description below. Episode 6 is coming within like the next day or so if it isn't up already. Episode 7 has been recorded, so yeah, expect lots of podcast content in the next few weeks. If you're not on it, now would be a great time to jump on the bandwagon. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like. If you're new, maybe consider subscribing for more country music content. And yeah, until next time, have a great day.